In this video, we're going to talk about how to contribute to open source and actually take you through the steps. But first, for those of you who don't know, what is open source? Well, a lot of technology that have created the internet that we know it today has been built on top of open source projects. And open source projects means that anybody can view the code. Anybody can see the code of a program, can inspect it, can modify it, can enhance it. In this way, the idea is that by sharing this information with everybody, we get everybody's input and we use the collective mind to improve software. And not only that, it also benefits everybody. For example, the most famous open source project, Linux, it's an operating system just like Windows or Mac OS, except it's built by everyday people. Its code is completely open source. Anybody can inspect it and add on to it. And it's become so successful that most of the cloud that we know it, most servers usually run Linux. So not only do you get to work with other developers from around the world, you can build great projects by just working in teams and learning how open source works. And you don't have to create something as big as an operating system. Finally, a lot of employers look upon open source contribution as a plus. If you're able to put in your resume that you're an open source contributor, well, that's a good sign. Plus, it teaches you valuable skills in using Git and GitHub to work in teams. So let's show you how to make your first open source contribution. Let's go to the Zero to Mastery organization here on GitHub. This was created as a practice ground for you, a playground. Nobody will yell at you if you break things. You can contribute, add silly things, whatever you want. It's a testing ground, so you have as much fun as possible. And we have a great community of administrators that will help you with these open source projects. By the way, who are these administrators? Just want to give a shout out to them. They're fellow students that have been kind enough to dedicate their time maintaining some of our open source projects. So you can say hi to them. They're very, very active on Slack as well. But anytime you make a pull request or contribute to open source, you're most likely going to be communicating with at least one of them. So hello to all of you. All right, let's look at how to make your very first open source contribution. And by the way, it's not limited to just this. Once you contribute here, you can go off and contribute to other open source projects all over GitHub. There's so many to pick from. You can just pick whichever one you want, or you can stick to these ones and make them better and better. We definitely have a great community of developers and we can create some awesome projects together. Now, the way you want to get started, well, luckily for you, there's actually a start here guidelines. So if I click on this, you have a step-by-step instruction on what to do. The first thing you want to do is actually read about the anatomy of an open source project, but also check out the Get Started guide by our wonderful fellow student that contributed her time, and she's actually an admin as well, and created this beautiful guide for you to follow step-by-step instructions on how to contribute. So after this video, definitely check out this document. But I'm going to skip over this and get to the part where we start contributing. All right, so the first thing we want to do is we want to find out which projects you can join. By clicking on this Google Sheet over here, we see all the projects that we have. And at the bottom tab, these are the projects that you can sign up for. So in my case, let's say I want to contribute to the travel guide. I'm going to enter my GitHub username here. In my case, it'll be this handle, and that's it. And the admins are going to look at that and add you to the project. All right, so once we've selected which project we want to join, and by the way, these projects you can also visit in the Zero to Mastery website. You can see over here that the travel guide has all this information, but when we click on it, well, there's not much happening here. So we want to start the ball rolling so others can contribute, and eventually have a finished application. All right, so that's the first step. Let's look at the second step that we have, and we want to sign up for the project you would like to contribute to, and you can sign up with the Google form. Again, created by our administrators. And in my case, I want to sign up for the travel guide. And again, my GitHub name is this. And I should provide my Slack username as well. I'll submit. There you go. We've submitted this so that the administrators are notified. And then finally, if we go back to the Start Here guidelines, step 3 is done. Step 4 is to make our very first pull request. And I'm not going to bore you. I've given you resources here, but this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to do your very first pull request. And what we're going to do is in the Start Here guidelines, we have a contributors file. And this contributors file has all the people that have submitted pull requests and want to be part of this organization. We see that our list is getting pretty big. So the way we do this, first thing we want to do is we want to click on this fork. And fork means you want to copy this project so it shows up in your GitHub profile. So I'm going to fork. It'll ask you where you should fork. You want to fork it to your own personal place. It's going to copy the project and forking from 0 to mastery Start Here guidelines all the way into yours. So you see that now it's your username, Start Here guidelines, with a little fork sign over here. Once you have that, you click on clone, and we want to clone and download this entire repo. So again, I'm going to copy, go to my terminal, and in my desktop, I'll just do git clone. Again, we should know how to do this by now. I'm going to clone the project so that this will be on my desktop. All right, perfect. And now we can CD into this project, which is Start Here guidelines. And perfect. We have our folder with all our files. If I open Sublime here, I will have my Start Here guidelines repo now on my computer. So in the Start Here guidelines, the number 4 step asks us to update the contributors file to include your name. So everybody should do this that goes through this course is at the bottom to add your name to the list of contributors. Now, as we know, we don't want to work on master. We want to branch out. So we're going to git checkout. And this is a sure way of creating a new branch. So we're going to check out and create a new branch, calling it, let's call it test for now. All right, so we've created the test branch. We're in the test branch. And in here, we can create our changes. In our case, in the contributors file, at the very bottom, we want to add our own GitHub username as the contributor. In our case, this is using Markdown. And in Markdown, this is the syntax for it. We want to show in the square brackets what we're going to display. And then the normal brackets afterwards is the link. So this is going to be a clickable link with a link to my GitHub profile. All right, so if I save this and go to git status, if I can spell, we see that the contributors file has been updated. I can now just git add, then git commit, and I'll just say that this is a test. Perfect. So one file has changed, and now all we can do is git push origin, and we want to push to our test branch. So origin means that we want to push to our forked repo. So that is right here, our forked repo. That is the origin. And in here, I'm going to push to our test branch. So that is the branch. We press enter. Perfect. Looks like our changes have been pushed. Let's clear this so it's a little bit cleaner and go back to the website. And look at that. We see that test is now up there and we can create a pull request. However, there's one issue here, right? If you look over here, I just made a push to my forked version. But if I go to the actual Start Here guidelines, so let's go to the Start Here guidelines here. Look at that. I have myself who has just created a minute ago from a forked version, a pull request. So if I click on compare pull requests, look down over here, I see that I've just added my name. I can now say, just added myself to the list, please let me in. And you can actually tag one of the admins here if you want. In my case, I'm just going to tag myself because I am an admin. Or actually, I'm not going to tag anybody since I'm here anyway. And I'm going to click Create Pull Request. And look at that. We now have a test branch. And this test branch is now ready to merge into master with my name here. So just to make sure that this works, before I click merge, I'll go into the 0 to mastery, start here guidelines, and look at the contributors file. You see that my name's not at the bottom, but as soon as I hit merge pull request, and this is something that only if you're an administrator, in my case, I can do it, so I can merge it myself. An administrator will merge it for you. They will click merge, confirm merge, and there you go. We are merged into master, and I can delete the branch because we don't need it anymore. So this is good practice to have. If I go now back to this and refresh, look at that. My name appears in the contributors file in the start here guidelines on the 0 to mastery. Very cool. Okay, so now that we know this, let's actually show you how to contribute to one of the open source projects. I'm going back to 0 to mastery, and if you remember, I signed up for the travel guide. And then the travel guide over here, well, it has nothing. So I'm going to contribute an index.html file. I'm going to clone the repo. Oh, first I have to fork, remember. I'm going to fork. Perfect, I have it on my own branch. Now I can clone this repo onto my laptop. So I'm gonna move out of the start here guidelines. I'm going to git clone the travel guide. Perfect. Let's go into the travel guide now. And I'm on the master branch, but I want to create a new branch. I'm going to say git checkout. And I'm going to say index file branch. And within here, I can now open Sublime. And let's just add a simple index.html file. I'm going to say new file, index.html. And within here, using my short key command, I'm going to say title will be travel guide, and I'll just enter a simple header 1 tag that says travel guide with an exclamation mark because we're really excited to work on it. And I can't spell, not travel, it's travel guide. All right, perfect. I save that, go back to GitHub. If I go to git status, I can even do git diff, and this will show you the differences. In our case, there's no diffs because we've just created the file. And I can just do git add, git commit, adding index.html, and then finally git push origin, and then we can do index file. All right, if I click enter. All right, I've just created a new branch and sent it up to GitHub. Let's see. If I go back to GitHub, I see that, yeah, I have a new pull request, which is great. Now, what if I go back to the 0 to Mastery travel guide? All right, I have it here as well. In my case, I'm not going to worry too much about my pull request. You can do this on your own. But for the 0 to Mastery organization, I'm going to say compare pull request. I see that I've added the index.html file. I would notify somebody on the team, be like, hey, just adding index.html. Let me know what you think. I'm going to create the pull request. And by the way, how nice is this? GitHub says, hey, be sure to review the code of conduct because we have a code of conduct file for open source, which I recommend that you read. But otherwise, let's create the pull request. And again, I'm cheating here because I am an administrator on this, so I should have merged my own pull request. But in our case, I know that I did this right. I'm just going to merge, confirm merge, delete branch, and check it out. Our travel guide now has an index.html file. How cool is that? I've just contributed to open source. So there are other projects in Zero to Mastery that you can do this with that don't have an index.html file. So you can actually go ahead and do that now and start off the project. And as more and more people come on, they can add on to this, add a CSS file, a JavaScript file, and eventually have a nice, beautiful travel guide. The one last thing I want to show you, something quick that you can do. Well, I want this to be used on GitHub Pages. I can just go to Settings, scroll all the way down to GitHub Pages, select Master Branch as my GitHub page, click Save. And if you scroll all the way down now, check it out. We have a link for our travel guide. So now, again, you can do this with all the new projects. You can edit the description and add a website. If I click Save, check it out. Travel guide now has a website that we can use. So as people join into the project, they can see what the latest master is. So as we add on to the project, newcomers can see how our travel guide is going. By the way, you want to know something else that's cool by following these steps? Well, remember how we've created in the Start Here guidelines, how we've added the contributors? Well, if your name appears in the contributors, the admin will give you access as a contributor. And when you get that, well, in your profile, you'll have a cool little icon, Zero to Mastery organization icons. And you can have many of these. And people that work at companies have logo of their company as well. But this way you get to have a cool little Zero to Mastery icon created by one of our students. But that's it. That's open source. And I highly, highly recommend that you get involved. It's a great way to work with others. It's a great way to learn how Git and GitHub really work. But most importantly, we don't care if you break things. This is a fun little playground for you to practice so that when you are at a real company, you know exactly what to do to make pull requests, to make merges, and to create features. There's no doubt that there's a lot that an individual programmer can do. However, the progress and scale that something can be built is really compounded when many people work on something together. I can't recommend this enough for you. Go make your first open source contribution and have fun building things with your fellow programmers. It may one day lead to you impressing a potential employer. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.